Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. My name is Adam, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Gundam Narrative. This was the, I think, 2018 movie that came out after Unicorn, so it's almost like a sequel to Unicorn in a way. I guess in terms of in-universe, there's some characters that show up from Unicorn, and it expands on the Newtype focus of Unicorn. I'd say that within the UC timeline, there's multiple movies and shows that focus on certain story elements. And to me, Unicorn and then continuing with Narrative really focuses on the Newtypes. So interesting that the name of this is Gundam Narrative, or you might see it Gundam NT, which is short for Newtype. And we saw, like with the Alex, for instance, that one is called the Gundam NT. So it's kind of interesting that there's that play on words here like we normally see with these titles. So the story really is character-driven, and it's really focused on three characters. These characters are ones that are caught up in this Newtype sort of thing going on. And then it starts where there's a school bus. One of the characters named Rita jumps out, and she's running, and then the kids are having to follow her. And these kids are her friends. So Rita is joined by Jonah and Michelle, and she grabs their hands, and then all of a sudden they're seeing visions of the colony drop on Australia. And so this is kind of what sparks everything. They call them the miracle children, that these three Newtypes were able to kind of have a vision of this disaster that was going to occur. And that's what gets them caught up into the Federation's Newtype program. And so the Newtype program by the Federation is called the Augusta Newtype Lab. And let me give a rundown of that. After the one-year war, the Augusta base, where the Earth Federation forces conducted their earliest Newtype research, becomes the first of the Federation's Newtype labs. The Augusta Lab is located on the northern shore of the Clark Hill Reservoir in modern-day South Carolina, not far from Augusta, Georgia. During the Grips conflict, so this is UC 0087, the facility produces the several new type use mobile weapons, such as the 0RX 005 Gaplant and the Cyber Newtypes Rosamia Bedan and Gates Kappa. And UC 0096 Unicorn Gundam Banshee unit is brought to the base for tests. Although the institute was closed down, the remaining facilities were secretly funded and operated by Anaheim Electronics. And this is where these three characters get caught up in. And in the narrative show, we kind of see three different generations of flashbacks from when they're kids, when they're a little bit older, getting caught up in the experiments, and then when they're much older, when they're piloting the Gundams. Luo and company plays a bigger part in this, and they were brought up in Unicorn, where Hathaway Noah was talking with Beltorka, which was Amuro's love interest in part of the UC timeline. But Michelle becomes an adoptive daughter of the main Luo guy, and we even see him in some sort of tank. It reminds me of Siam Vist, but he's like in some sort of tank that's keeping him alive, although he's not really active. In the movie, it's actually his real daughter that's active. So it's interesting that he's got this real daughter that's now head of Luo and Company, but he's got this adoptive daughter who is supposedly a Newtype. And that's what's kind of interesting between the three main characters is only one of them really is a Newtype. But because Rita used the other, not used them, but kind of shared her vision with the other kids, everyone just assumed that they were Newtypes, and Anaheim Electronics and the Earth Federation Force was using them in these Newtype lab operations. And the main idea going forward in the story is that Rita was using the Phenex Gundam, which is that gold Gundam we've seen around that kind of looks like it's based off of the designs of the Banshee and the Unicorn, but it's gone missing. And the idea is that when they were doing the tests with Rita in it, she kind of got mad and it just disappeared. So there are groups that are trying to hunt this down in terms of using it as a weapon or just to get their friend back. So the Earth Federation has the Shazar team, which is a group of Federation soldiers that they're using to try to get the Phenex back. And from the Republic of Zeon forces, we have Zoltan Akanin. which they've explained in narrative that he's actually a failed Char clone, which that could give him his eccentric madness that he has. And it looks like Luo and company have the DJ. It's like kind of a more advanced version that we saw like Amuro use in Zeta. And they're actually going after Martha Vist because Martha Vist, with Anaheim Electronics that we know from Unicorn, was involved in the program of creating the unicorns. And so there's a little bit of this sort of retconning. Now, I don't know if it was intentional or they just added it, but we had the white unicorn, we have the Banshee, and then there was this third one, the Phenex, which is brought up here, but all along, those three were built together. And Jonah, the boy that was, I think, closest to Rita from the three, Michelle, Jonah, and Rita, he actually has a Gundam called the NT. Now, it's not like some crazy Gundam. It's actually very lightweight. The reason is it has like the A, B, and C type or packs that it has. First of all, the A packs has like these claws that it tries to capture using some iframes. I think that's a video game reference. Or the Minovsky frames, whatever they call it, to try to capture the Phenex. But it can't be done. The Phenex is just way too powerful because Rita is really a new type, whereas Jonah and Michelle are not. When Michelle wants to be a new type, or from what she's understood from Newtypes, there's an aspect of a life after death, which has been kind of gone through all since the original Mobile Suit Gundam, where Lala, even after death, is speaking to Char and Amuro. So there's this idea where Michelle wants to chase after that aspect, where Jonah just wants to be back with his friend. Stephanie Luo, who is now head of Luo and Company, and she was meeting up with Escola Guetta, who is actually a member of the Titans. So Titans are still around here, but I guess the idea is she's speaking on events that occurred in the past and the damages that have been done. And they even show some reanimation of previous Gundam, like Zeta and Double Zeta. And then, throughout narrative, they have the flashbacks of the kids going through the Newtype program at the Augusta base. And they kind of, I guess there's a scene where they talk about having to kill them, dismember them, depending on how they are working out. And they're scared because the two of them know they're not Newtypes, but they also don't know what's going to happen with Rita. So on one hand, they're trying to be there for each other, but on the other hand, they want to try to be safe. So Michelle is able to kind of trade information to get with Luo and Company. And then Jonah just becomes part of the Federation forces so they can use him with Gundams. So Zoltan, the failed Char clone, he has a Sinanju Stein. They also have a 2 Neo Zeong, and I guess that's how it's pronounced. It's like that NZ9992 Neo Zeong, and it's white instead of red. And apparently, Luo and Company or Michelle had a hand in helping them get a hold of this device. Really, Michelle, at the end of the day, she just wants to get the Phenex and learn more about new type abilities, regardless of who she's working for. When really Mineva Zombie is part of this and really doesn't want the war, these things to occur. So she's seeing it from her side where she can. So we have a battle that ensues at side 6. This is where they detect the Phenex. They send out the narrative Gundam. I think it's with the B pack, so it kind of has these. It almost looks like what you see on the Victory Gundam, but there's these two kind of fin things sticking out that have cable wires attached to them to try to go and capture the Phenex. But then the 2 Neo Zeong actually shows up here as well. There's some flashbacks between the kids, kind of showing like the necklace of the bird that they had. Here are the B packs firing off. And here are the B packs kind of showing some of the energy, the psychoframe energy it's using to try to capture the Phenex. And here's the Neo Zeong breaking free and entering the colony. And Jonah, in the narrative Gundam, is actually being drawn to the Neo Zeong. We saw in Unicorn how the Sinanju would fit in, and when full frontal was in, the Sinanju would just fit into the Neo Zeong. And in here, it's kind of the same thing that's going on, even though it was probably meant for the Sinanju Stein, and that's what Zoltan wanted to use it for. The Gundam, because of the Newtype in the psycho frames and all that stuff attracting each other, the Gundam, it fits into the Neo Zeong. And flashbacks are happening all over the place while this fight at the colony is going on. And here we show them at the Augusta lab, showing children kind of locked into these devices. And this is how they're doing their Newtype testing. It really makes the Federation look bad, but it further makes the Titans look bad, as the person running this program is a member of the Titans. Here's an interesting shot showing Rita kind of like, with this face mask on, and it looks like some sort of tattooing done on her forehead. Maybe that's for surgery or something. Yeah, the Phenex, Rita in the Phenex comes down, puts her hand on the Neo Zeong to communicate with Jonah, similar to when she held his hand when they were at the beach as kids and he saw the vision of the colony drop. And there's a mysterious person in here inside what could be the Silver Bullet Gundam, and we find out who that is later on. We see the Grenadiers Jr., which has the team that we saw from Unicorn, so that's kind of a cool connection to this and how these people are a big part of what happens moving forward. And then clips of Newtype communication that have occurred during previous Gundam series. We see Elikugo, which is supposedly a subordinate to Zoltan, but she actually reports to Monahan, who's a current foreign affairs guy at the Republic of Zeon, or Neo Zeon. Zoltan overhears the conversation that's going on, and she pulls a gun on him, but we'll see later that she's the one that didn't survive. And because of that, then Zoltan gets full access to the Neo Zeon. And here we see the Neo Zeon kind of going full force against the Federation mobile suits. Some pretty awesome battling here. And some cool ship-based attacks. Now, I guess they're at a part out in space in the Earth sphere where they have a lot of resources and kind of fuel-based. That are all kind of near each other. And the idea here is by fighting here, they're kind of using it as a shield. No one would want to attack these fuel depots because it would cause a chain reaction, destroy a lot of the resources, and maybe kill a lot of lives with all the explosions occurring. Yeah, just like we saw in Unicorn, the Neo Zeong has some special weapons that it starts unleashing. All right, and that kind of the zombie weapon system that I liked, where you shoot the cables out and kind of takes over the units, trying to capture the Phenex. And here are the C-Packs, kind of have that outer psycho frame. All right, and we see some of, even though Rita is, her Newtype consciousness is really embedded into the psycho frame of the Phenex, she still, I guess, has some sort of connection with Jonah and is using the Newtype abilities, the psycho waves, to protect him in this explosion against the Neo Zeong. And we see Zinnerman on board the Grenadiers Jr. and the Silver Bullet that is piloted by none other than Banagher Lynx. Michelle uses herself as a shield and gets killed, allowing Jonah to live to continue to fight and save Rita in the Phenex. And then we see some more of the fantastical side of Gundam, where the psycho waves that I guess appear due to all of the emotional issues occurring between the different new types. The energy is flying into pieces of Psycho Frame that have been shattered around the Neo Zeong. Really cool shot of the narrative Gundam. Interesting to note that the pilot suit he wears, that Jonah wears in the narrative Gundam, is itself further increasing the psycho waves that go into the Gundam itself. And it's very hard on him, very exhausting on him. And we see shots of flashbacks of the kids again, showing them, all three together, caring for each other. There's kind of a scene where his necklace breaks, and then Rita is able to repurpose it into a necklace, and they each have a piece of the necklace. And as the fighting continues, Banagher Link shows up in his Silver Bullet Gundam to help out Jonah. Really cool scene, really cool looking Gundam. And the Phenex is just flying around, just chopping up that Neo Zeong with its beam saber, wrist-mounted beam saber blades. Oh. Yeah, that's going to do it. And at the end, we see the three characters standing at the beach amongst the wreckage of the colony drop. And it's kind of like a spiritual domain they're in, kind of an afterlife where their consciousnesses are speaking to each other to kind of get, resolution for the three characters. Interesting, that little animation we saw reminds me of the intro to Double Zeta Gundam, unless it's the second intro, where it kind of has that energy that shoots off. I wonder if that's representative of Newtypes in some way. Back at the Megalonica from Unicorn, and this is where Maneva Zabi resides. So it looks like the Monahan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, is maybe looking to start some more war. And Maneva, even though she is the heir to the Republic, the Zabi heir to Republic of Zeon, she wants to minimize fighting in the end. So very interesting that, Maneva is speaking of the psychoframe technology as maybe something humans shouldn't have because they don't know how to use it properly. And it looks like they still have the unicorn. It's just, hidden somewhere. And I like the idea of some advanced technology that is in hiding because humanity can't really comprehend and understand how to use it for good. And then barely within the helmet, you can see Banagher there. So it's cool that he's a big part of this because he understands, the new type involvement in humanity, psychoframes within a Gundam, and how that kind of conflicts with, the lives, keeping everyone alive. It just creates war. And that is it. So, when I first watched Narrative is when I first got into Gundam. This was a newer movie, so I watched it, and yeah, I did not get it at all. And I'd say watching it again, especially after Zeta, Double Zeta, and Unicorn, especially the original Mobile Suit Gundam. I mean, it makes so much more sense, and it is a great story. Again, like with Unicorn and the Laplace's box being that article, this Phenex Unicorn also seems like an additional retcon. It's like creating something new that, this was here all along. To further the story. And I guess I don't mind too much because we are seeing some really cool mobile suits being used in here, just like in Unicorn, some cool battles. And I gotta say, I do like the story between the three characters, even if sometimes it's a bit much and it keeps going on and on. So it makes it hard to just watch the movie over and over again, like some Gundam is easy to watch over and over again. It's because sometimes they're kind of hitting you too hard over the head with the message or with the storyline when you get it. So, curious what everyone else thinks about Gundam Narrative. Again, it came out right when I started getting into Gundam. The narrative with the Apex, I think, was like my third or fourth Gundam Gunpla that I bought and built. But other than that, I don't really hear people talking about narrative too much. And I don't know if it's because of the convoluted story. It's a character-based story around the Newtype phenomenon that spans since Mobile Suit Gundam. So anyway, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe, and talk to you later.